Hey guys, it's Jay. Just wrapping up my first week at Ascendo Fitness in Sydney. Just left there actually. Just getting ready to head back home. It has been an incredible week with the guys at Ascendo. Laura Boudreau is my trainer, and it has been like it's been like a reboot to this whole thing. I mean, I'm 2 months into this now. Since I started the pre-op diet. It's being a month this week since surgery. So, I've been at this now in a heavy way since the first week of March, and even months before that, getting ready for it and planning to actually do it. So, I think after 2 or 3 months, there has to be some kind of change in your life that reinvigorates you. I certainly lost none of the passion that I had for the project, but it's easy to start losing energy, especially after surgery, when there is such a dramatic change from the way I was living and the way I was eating to the way you're able to live and the way you're able to eat post-op. This week on the blog, though, I'm talking about fear. A few weeks ago, I talked about how hard it is on the head to be fat, and how much of living with obesity is living with anxiety, and the things that you normally would do in the run of a day, in the run of a week, how they slowly just fade from your life, and regular things become challenging, not only physically, but also mentally, trying to the example I used was going to a store or standing in line or walking through the mall. Any of these things were increasingly difficult to the point where I was taking myself out of any situation that I wasn't in complete control of. I didn't always notice the pounds. I didn't notice the increases in clothing. I talked about buying oversized ones and growing into them. So I didn't notice any of that stuff. But I noticed a real change in my personality, in my mood, and in my outlook, because I went from being an incredibly social person to being basically a wallflower, and I don't know the span of time. And I pawned that off on a lot of things. I pawned it off on work. I pawned it off on being busy. I pawned it off on being a side effect of getting up for my early shift. When Dad died, I pawned it off on him, and I thought that was grief. And maybe all of those things were contributing factors to my choices, but they were still my choices. And I was moving myself from being an incredibly outgoing person to being someone who really had checked out of life, had checked out of friendships, had checked away from my family, had really just become a guy who got up and went to work and went home and went to bed, and got up and went to work and went home and went to bed. And that is a boring way to live life, even with an exciting job like I have, and working with incredibly creative people like I do. That wears on you. That wears on you a lot. So since I've got into this, I started wondering what was behind that anxiety, because I've always used the term anxiety for it, and now I'm not sure that that's the right phrase, because an anxiety disorder is often something deeper than just your outlook or your perspective, right? So I don't want to muddle the two, because I'm really not sure where the line is. But what I know for sure is everything that I thought was anxiety, I'm now more comfortable labeling fear. The things I couldn't control, I was afraid of. The things that I was afraid of, I wouldn't participate in. I'd remove myself from situations. I talked about that a lot. I began to withdraw from life, from situations that before I would relish in, that I would seek out, going out with friends, going over to a friend's house, a last-minute road trip. All of these things became troublesome for me to accept and plan when I had suddenly had to worry about if I would fit in someone else's car, or, what kind of furniture they had, or if we were heading to a restaurant, would I get stuck in a booth, or, all of these things caused such fear in me that I just removed myself from the situation. And here's how I know it was fear and not anxiety, because it was that anxiety, as I was calling it, that kept me out of a gym. The logical part of my head knew that I always had to move more, right? And it understood that there are proven habits of people who pull this off effectively, right? Who are able to lose weight or maintain health or do anything. And then even further, there are these strange people who really enjoy it, right? When someone would tell me, when a person who wasn't huge would come up to me and tell me they were going to the gym, it was like a puppy dog hearing a strange sound. I would tilt my head and raise an eyebrow, because I just couldn't wrap my head around why the hell they would do that. Again, me thinking that I would ever put myself in that situation because of this anxiety. Now I know that it's fear, because if that was being fueled by my weight, if that was honestly being fueled by my size, I wouldn't be over some of those things now. I'm incredibly proud to have lost 80 pounds, but 80 pounds from 460 still puts me in around 380 pounds. I am still the biggest guy in just about any room I walk into. I still wear the biggest pants. I'm still buying 4 and 5 X, sweaters and stuff. They're all getting looser, thankfully, but I'm nowhere near yet what society would look at as normal in terms of size. So I guess what I'm saying is I don't stick out any less now than I did before I lost the 80 pounds. I'm still, by all standards, a huge guy who brings attention. So if that's the case, if I'm still that, how is it now that I don't mind walking through a store or going to the gym on a regular basis or doing any of those things that scared the hell out of me 2 months before? Losing weight, it wasn't when I lost 10 or 20 or 50 or even 80 pounds that clicked for me. It wasn't tied to the scale in any way that fear and anxiety went away. Because you know when it went away? It was before I lost a single pound. It went away the minute that I took control of the situation. The minute that I started acting in my own best interest. The minute that I made myself, my health, my mental health. When I made all of that a priority for myself, all that fear was stripped away. When I realized that the only thing in this situation that I can actually control, it's not people's car seats, it's not restaurants, it's not where, friends of mine want to go, or it's not any of those things. The only thing that I can actively control is myself and my choices. And the minute that I did that, all that fear went away. The last 2 months of my life have been about me doing things that I've never done before. If there was a time in my life for me to be truly afraid, to truly feel fear, it would have been since I took on all of this that is brand new to me. All of this that I know I can't control, that I know I can't do alone, that I know in order for me to successfully pull off, I have had to, on a regular basis, stop, put my hand up, and say, I'm in over my head. I need help. I don't know the answer to this question. And when that's about really basic things, like what can I eat? What exercise can I do? What's in this? That using MyFitnessPal to realize what I used to put in my system. All of these things have been admissions by me of no control. If you are someone who enjoys control and feel comfortable being in control, you are wasting your time, your energy, and your effort if you're not spending all that energy on yourself, because it's the only thing you can control. It's the only thing you're truly responsible for when you disappoint, right? When you're in control and you still do it wrong, then that is fair blame to lay on yourself. But when you have expectations of the world, of everybody else, right? And then you don't meet those, then that's completely different, right? You're holding yourself to a standard that you couldn't possibly be in control of meeting. So focusing in on me becoming a real selfish guy with my time, with my choices, all of that has been the greatest lesson over the last 2 months, and it's serving me well now that I'm in a position, going to a gym, going to Ascendo, that I never, ever would have done 2 or 3 months ago. So read the blog this week. It's all about fear, and I don't care if you're 2 pounds overweight or, a couple of 100 pounds overweight. There is an element of fear in what you're going through. And it took me a long time to acknowledge that, and then it took me an even larger time to sit down and figure out what it was that made that go away. Because it wasn't the surgery, it wasn't being active again, it wasn't the numbers on the scale, it was the accumulation of all those things, and knowing that all of those things were happening because I was in control. So there comes a point when you ask yourself if you're using your obesity or using your overweightness as an excuse to keep you from situations, if you're kind of hanging your life on that single thing, or if you're doing what I used to do, which is basically hiding behind myself and setting limitations on myself that nobody else did, that nobody else had ever even communicated to me. That was all internal. That was all in here. And all of that had to go away, really, before I made the first step in this direction that has been just getting better and better every day. And every day I understand that I'm a little bit more in control. So if you are out there, if you're one of the people who are writing or watching, ask yourself how much of what you've taken out of your life, how much you have just given into and said that's no longer me. I'm not capable of doing those things. I'm not comfortable doing those things. Ask yourself how much of that is actually being determined by the fact that you got some extra pounds on you, and how much of that is just being fueled by fear. Head on over to eagle1035.com, read the blog. I always appreciate your comments. You can leave them right there, right there. That was Clay Spade coming. Leave them right there, boy. Leave them right there on the blog for me. I'll get them there, or find me on Facebook. It's been many, many things. I'll see you again next Friday.